June 1935, Queensland, Australia. A man named Reginald Montgomery steps off a ship carrying 2 suitcases from Hawaii. Inside the suitcases, 102 cane toads. The plan? Release them into the sugarcane fields to eat the beetles that were destroying crops. Simple, elegant. What could go wrong? Everything. Today, there are over 200 million cane toads in Australia. They've spread across half the continent. They're poisoning native wildlife by the thousands. And despite spending over $20 million trying to stop them, Australia can't get rid of them. The government's official position? There is unlikely to ever be a broad-scale method available to control cane toads across Australia. Translation: we give up. This is the story of how 102 toads became an unstoppable invasion and one of the greatest ecological disasters in modern history. Let's start with why Australia thought this was a good idea. Since the 1860s, Queensland had been growing sugarcane commercially. By the 1880s, they had a serious problem: cane beetles. Specifically, the larvae of these beetles, called white grubs, were eating the roots of the sugarcane plants, killing the crops. Farmers were losing massive amounts of money. In 1900, the Queensland government created the Bureau of Sugar Experiment Stations, specifically to solve this problem. For decades, entomologists tried everything: chemicals, pesticides, arsenic, pitch, copper compounds. Nothing worked well enough. Then, in 1932, a researcher named Raquel Dexter presented a paper at a conference in Puerto Rico. Her finding? Cane toads in Puerto Rico were successfully eating beetle larvae and controlling pest populations in sugarcane fields. Australia's entomologists saw this and thought, perfect, let's do that here. In June 1935, Reginald Montgomery traveled to Hawaii, where cane toads from Puerto Rico had also been introduced. He captured 102 toads and brought them back to Australia. The toads were housed in a special enclosure near Gordonvale, Queensland, and left to breed. By August 1935, they had successfully reproduced. On August 19, 1935, 2,400 cane toads were released into the sugarcane fields around Gordonvale. And here's the most shocking part. They never tested whether the toads would actually eat the cane beetles. They didn't study whether the toads might harm the Australian environment. They just released them. Not everyone thought this was a good idea. Walter Frogat, a prominent Australian entomologist, raised concerns before the release. In 1936 he wrote, "This great toad, immune from enemies, omnivorous in its habits, and breeding all the year round, may become as great a pest as the rabbit or cactus." He lobbied the federal government to exercise caution. In December 1935, the Director General of Health actually banned any further release of toads. But the ban lasted less than a year. The Bureau of Sugar Experiment Stations and local cane growers lobbied hard. So, how did the toads do at controlling cane beetles? Terribly. Turns out, the beetles fly and lay their eggs high in the canopy. The toads, they stay on the ground. The toads rarely even encountered the beetles they were supposed to eat. A 2020 study analyzed sugar production data from 1900 to 1949 and found that crop yields did not increase at all after the introduction of cane toads in 1935. The toads were a complete failure at the one job they were brought to Australia to do. At first, The toad invasion moved slowly. From 1935 to the 1960s, they spread at about 10 kilometers per year. Then something changed. By the 2000s, they were spreading at 40 to 60 kilometers per year. Researchers discovered that toads at the invasion front had evolved longer legs. These toads could travel over a kilometer in a single night, and they did so every night. This is an incredible rate for an amphibian. By 1959, they had colonized most of Queensland's east coast. By 1984, they reached the Northern Territory border. By 2011, they were in Western Australia. Today, cane toads have spread over 1.2 million square kilometers of Australia. So why can't Australia just get rid of them? 2 reasons. 1, they breed like crazy. Female cane toads can lay up to 35,000 eggs at a time, multiple times per year. 2, they're poisonous. Cane toads have glands behind their eyes that secrete a milky toxin. This toxin can kill crocodiles, snakes, lizards, quolls, and almost any native predator that tries to eat them. Australia's wildlife evolved without encountering anything like this. Native predators see a toad, think food, eat it, and die. The death toll has been catastrophic. One study found that the invasion of cane toads caused a trophic cascade. Monitor lizards ate the toads and died, which caused a boom in the population of crimson finches, the lizard's usual prey. The entire ecosystem is being rewritten. So what has Australia tried? Everything. Bounties on toads, community toad-busting groups, pesticides, genetic modification, behavioral conditioning, fences around water sources. None of these methods have stopped the invasion. In 2010, the Australian government officially stated there is unlikely to ever be a broad-scale method available to control cane toads across Australia. They've given up on eradication. Here's the truly frustrating part. Australia had already made this mistake before. In the 1800s, they introduced rabbits for hunting. Result? Rabbits became one of the worst invasive species in Australian history. Then, they introduced foxes to control the rabbits. Result? The foxes ignored the rabbits and ate native wildlife instead. As one historian noted, the cane toad debacle influenced Australia's strict quarantine laws and risk assessment procedures that exist today. But the damage was already done. So here's what we learned. In 1935, Australia imported 102 cane toads. They didn't test. The toads didn't work, but they did spread across half the continent, poison thousands of native animals, and become one of the world's top 100 invasive species. Today, there are over 200 million cane toads in Australia. The cane toad invasion is now considered unstoppable, all because of 102 toads. All because nobody asked the simple question, should we maybe test this first? The cane toad is a reminder that sometimes the worst disasters aren't caused by malice or ignorance. They're caused by overconfidence, by assuming that because something worked somewhere else, it'll work here too. Australia will be dealing with cane toads for centuries, and it all started with 2 suitcases. Strange history, where sometimes the solution is worse than the problem. Much, much worse.